Hello, this is Suzanne in Ohio. I'm back with some of my loaded folders. I had a request to show how I make them. So for those of you that haven't seen the other video, I have two samples here. And these were my loaded folders, and you can watch these in detail and several others on a couple other videos. But it's just a folded piece of patterned cardstock or patterned paper, whatever you want to call it. It is cardstock weight, most of it. It just opens up, and I made them all slightly different, but basically they have two pockets. And then they're loaded with all kind of goodies. The decorations are whatever you want them to be. So I just want to show you how I go about that for the person that asked me. It's really simple. So here's one in the beginning stages. All it is a double-sided scrapbook cardstock, and then any kind of coordinating paper or whatever you want it to be. So I usually use the whole length. These are slightly smaller, and I'm trying to use up my scraps, so that was how I came up with these in the first place. So basically you just have a large piece, and I always just fold it up and make sure I have a nice healthy flap. And then the next thing I would do is round the corners if I wanted to, and then cut these two, usually one larger, one smaller, and then put the little finger scoops in them so that you can tell where they're at. Now the next thing you would do is ink. If you want anything inked, you want to go ahead and do that now. So this one I have started, and I'll show you again. It's just a double-sided piece of paper, and then I chose these. Felt like they went all right. And the reason you want to cut the pockets in two separate pieces is when you put them in the folder, you do not want them up against each other. You've got to have room right here for the fold. So one easy way you can do that is to place them in there and then hold them, open it up, and you'll see there's about a 1/16 of an inch of space in there. And you have to have that. Okay, so here I have my corners rounded and my scoops cut out, and I have things inked. So what I'll do at that point is I will only glue a tiny, thin, little line of glue right there, just to hold those two in place. Now I have another one at that stage, so I'll show you. So I have these two pockets cut, and all I did was glue them right there at that edge. Now I went ahead and glued a tuck spot on here. If you want to sew your tuck spot, you would do that, of course, before you glue it down. So here it is at this stage. Now, at this stage, what I would do is take it to the sewing machine and stitch around it. You can or cannot. You don't have to sew it if you don't want to. Some people would just sew right along here, or you can sew all the way around and give it, you know, more of a decorative feel. So also I chose all kinds of different stuff. I wanted you to see how they look with different papers. So there you go. All right, so here's another one at a different stage. And this one I made out of book pages. And here's the stage this one is in. Of course, I made my fold out of book pages, so it looks entirely different. I use Friends-of-All greeting cards, you know, to create odd tuck spots or odd pockets, not just traditional ones. And then this one I plan to glue in, or I'm sorry, stitch in a little booklet. So I have all those pages ready. So you can see how different they can all look if you just use different papers. So here we have one more. And this one, well, I started out with a 12 by 12 scrapbook paper, and I liked both sides of it. So I created something that went with the style of the paper. And this is the only scrap I had left, which I will make a tag out of. But what I did here was the pockets, I cut a hole and put acetate in there so it's a window, and used my decorative scissors along these edges. And here we have another acetate window. So here's my pages, which creates a little booklet as well as pockets. So you can see they all look so different according to what you put, how you doctor them up, and what kind of papers you use. That one has a tuck closure. Now, as far as a string closure, this was a mistake for me. Here's a pocket. You can see there's the pocket. I had this scrap, so I punched holes in it, wove my ribbon through it, and now all I have to do is tie it. On these, the other ones I made, I used, it's a type of nylon that I have that ends up looking a lot like tulle, but I wanted to hide the string, so I punched here and down inside here, and I put that string in it before I sewed around it. Now you can see this one I sewed all the way around the pocket. Whatever you want to do, and according to how much wear and tear you think that they'll get. So there you have it, a little how-to on the folders. And again, let me say how really interesting they are if you use different papers. And this one had kind of, oh, I don't know, a little bit modern look to it. So what I did was just use a bunch of odds and ends papers, and I'll take that to the sewing machine and stitch right down in the crease. Although I could pamphlet stitch it, you know, 3 or 4 holes, and sew them in by hand. And then, of course, you would decorate the outside according to whatever you want to do with it. Okay, so that's the how-to on the folders. Remember how different they look if you use different papers. Oh, I'll tell you about this one. All this is a very vintage sheet of music paper that I copied. This is an old document off of the internet, a wedding certificate. This is a compilation page that I made myself by putting pieces of paper doilies on and copying them. And I did that on several different backgrounds. This side is a compilation page that I made for myself using old vintage documents, napkins, prints of textiles, just whatever I had. And so that makes a very interesting outside for that one. So there you have it. Go to it, give it a try, and adjust yours according to the size that you want. Some of these can stand alone as a gift, or some of them could be in a journal as an addition. Hey, thanks for watching. Come back again.